There are moments in life that change everything, moments you never expect to experience. For me, one cold October night marked the beginning of something I couldn't have prepared for, something that reshaped everything I thought I knew about this world, about God's plan and about the mysteries of life and death. I never imagined I'd be telling this story. In fact, there was a time when I wasn't even sure I'd survive the experience. But here I am, writing these words, convinced that the Lord has made it clear. This story is not just mine to keep. It's meant to be shared for reasons I'm still learning. My name is Evelyn Carter. I'm a grandmother, a mother, and a believer. For months, I've wrestled with what happened, prayed for understanding, and asked God if I was truly meant to speak about it. The answer is clear now. I must. But before I dive into the extraordinary events that followed, I want to ask you something. Have you ever wondered what happens after we die? Have you ever felt a stirring curiosity about the things beyond our understanding, the mysteries of life and death that we can't see, touch, or explain? Have you ever thought that perhaps, just maybe, there's something so incredible, so far beyond what you could imagine, that it catches you completely off guard, even if you've spent your life believing? It all started like any other evening. I'd spent the afternoon with my daughter Sarah and my beloved grandchildren in Cedar Rapids. The sun had set, and I was on my way home, driving alone through the stillness of an October night. The warmth of our family time lingered in my heart. Emma proudly showing off her lost tooth, James pushing me on the swing with his usual enthusiasm, Sarah's famous pot roast filling the house with its comforting scent. That night, the sky felt unusually oppressive, shrouded in a thick veil of dark clouds that hid even the faintest trace of moonlight. I had an hour's drive ahead of me, but I wasn't concerned. At 63, I had driven through countless nights, finding peace in the solitude and quiet moments, praying and reflecting on life. I thought about my grandchildren, how quickly they were growing up, and offered a prayer of gratitude for every moment I'd shared with them. And then, everything changed. One moment I was driving, lost in thoughts of family and faith, and the next, my world was turned upside down. A deer, seemingly out of nowhere, darted in front of my headlights. I swerved instinctively, but the road was slick and my car spun out of control. The last thing I remember was the screeching of tires, followed by a breathless whisper, "Jesus, help me." And then, nothing. The pain disappeared. The fear vanished. The world around me fell away, replaced by a brilliant light. Not just any light, but one so pure and alive, it seemed to hold the mysteries of the universe within it. It didn't blind me, but it wrapped me in a warmth and peace I had never known. For a moment, I felt weightless, free from the confines of my body. Who was I? Where was I? What was this place? And then I heard my name. Evelyn. The voice was soft, yet carried a power that resonated deep within me. Without even turning, I knew who it was. It was him. What was happening? Why was I here? How could I possibly stand in the presence of perfection itself? Would I even understand what God wanted me to see about this world, and what lay beyond? Had I prepared for this moment? Was I ready? No, but I had no choice. This story, this experience, was going to change me forever. Jesus looked at me with eyes filled with such tenderness and love that I felt my heart swell with emotion. "Your body is between life and death," he said, his voice soft yet certain. "For now you will return. You have a message to carry. But first you must witness what is to come, so you can warn my people and prepare them for the final days." The final days? What did he mean? What was to come? And why me? Before I could even gather my thoughts, he took my hand, and in the blink of an eye, we were no longer in that place of light. We were moving, floating through dimensions of time and space, passing between worlds. It felt like we were slipping through the fabric of reality itself, and as we moved, he began to show me visions. The first was of our world, but seen through a spiritual lens, one that revealed truths I had never imagined. It wasn't just a glimpse of the future. It was a sharp, unflinching look at the present. Have we really become so blind? I saw the world we had built, technology, social media, and the endless entertainment we had all come to rely on, not inherently evil, but insidiously distracting. What happened to the signs all around us? Why had we stopped seeing them? Look carefully, Jesus said, gesturing to a crowd before me. Many of my children are asleep. They go to church, they say their prayers, but their hearts are divided. Could that be true of me too? How often had I let the world distract me, consumed by the noise instead of the stillness? They seek comfort in the world rather than in me, he continued. The enemy has woven a perfect web of distractions. Good things, yes, but not the best thing. True intimacy with me. How many hours had I spent scrolling through my phone, lost in the endless feeds, and how little time had I spent in prayer? How many of us are connected to our devices but so disconnected from God's presence? Had we traded the depth of spiritual nourishment for quick, empty satisfaction? But Lord, I asked, my voice trembling with uncertainty, what about all the Christian content online? Isn't that good? He nodded. Some of it serves a purpose, but much of it has become like fast food for the soul, quick, convenient, but lacking the nourishment of true spiritual depth. Could it be that we were settling for the easy way out? What if our souls were starving and we didn't even realize it? My people need to return to their first love, Jesus said, his voice full of longing and sorrow. They need to seek me in the quiet places, to hunger for my word more than they hunger for likes, followers, or comfort. Was I truly seeking him that way? Had we, as a generation, forgotten how to hunger for God, truly and deeply? The scene around me shifted. I saw the future, not far off, but soon. A growing hostility toward true Christianity, a pressure to compromise biblical truths in exchange for social acceptance. It wasn't the kind of persecution we expected. No, this was more subtle. It was the pressure to fit in, to water down faith for the sake of belonging. Churches were dividing. Some held firm to the word of God, while others bent to the shifting tide of culture. Watch, Jesus said, his voice heavy with concern, as I saw believers torn between their faith and their desire for acceptance. This is where the division begins. Would I be strong enough to stand firm when the pressure came? Could I choose Christ over comfort, truth over approval? As the visions continued, I saw Christians facing impossible choices, between faith and career, between family and standing firm in the truth, between society's expectations and God's call. This is just the beginning, he said. These divisions will force my true followers to make a choice. Many will fall away, seeking the approval of men rather than the approval of God. But those who remain faithful will grow stronger in their faith. His words sank deep into my soul, heavy and unshakable. Would I be one of the faithful? Could I withstand the pressure to conform? The weight of what I had witnessed, what I was being called to understand, was more than I could bear in that moment. But I knew one thing. This was only the beginning, and my journey was far from over. The vision deepened, revealing a figure emerging on the world stage. A charismatic leader whose presence was magnetic, whose words were so compelling that even the most faithful were drawn to him. His promises of peace, unity, and global harmony seemed like the answer to the world's deepest problems. His message was flawless in appearance, but was it truly of God? Jesus' voice pierced through my thoughts, heavy with warning. This leader will deceive many. His solutions will seem perfect, but they will lead people further from the truth. A cold chill ran through me. Was this the beginning of the end? The world was about to be swept away by a great deception, and many would follow without realizing the cost. Jesus spoke with a deep, sorrowful weight, his voice trembling with both compassion and urgency. This is the deceiver. His words hung in the air, thick with meaning. He will come as an angel of light, promising peace and prosperity. Many will be deceived because they have not grounded themselves in my word and my presence. I tried to grasp the depth of his warning, but the next vision left me shaken. I saw the leader rise to global power, his influence spreading across nations. At first, everything seemed genuine. His promises to end poverty, solve conflicts, and stabilize the economy. It looked like the solution to the world's problems. But something felt off, a shadow lurking behind his smooth words. Was this really the answer? Or was something darker at play? Jesus pointed to the figure with quiet authority. Notice how he speaks of spirituality but never mentions me. His voice grew colder. He will promote a universal faith, inclusive in appearance, but one that denies my deity and the power of my blood. The world was on the verge of being deceived. People would choose the comfort of peace over the truth of salvation. I watched as this deceiver set in motion a new global system, seemingly flawless, promising to bring order to chaos. But Jesus' words echoed louder and louder. This is the great deception I warned about in my word. Many would fall for it, unknowingly abandoning their faith in the process. The vision shifted again, and I saw a second figure, a darker presence, the false prophet. His charisma was even more magnetic, his power to perform signs and wonders awe-inspiring. I watched as he called fire down from the heavens and healed the sick in a blink of an eye. How could anyone resist such miracles? The world would be captivated by him, unable to see the danger. I turned to Jesus, my heart heavy with dread. Lord, how will anyone know the difference between these false miracles and your true power? His voice was calm, yet firm. Those who know me intimately will discern the difference. I clung to his words, but doubt crept in. How many would truly know him? The false prophet's miracles glorified him and the Antichrist, while true miracles always pointed to Jesus and his sacrifice on the cross. In a world so desperate for answers, would anyone recognize the difference? Jesus spoke with increasing urgency, his voice filled with concern. This is why it is crucial for my people to develop deep spiritual discernment now, before these events unfold. The distractions of the world could make it easy to miss the truth when it arrived. As the vision continued, my heart broke. I saw how these false miracles pulled countless souls into the Antichrist system. Even leaders I once respected, people I had trusted, were deceived, leading their followers astray. How could this happen? How could so many be misled so easily? And then something darker than ever before began to unfold. The mark of the beast. It wasn't presented as an evil choice. It was dressed up as the ultimate solution to humanity's problems. I saw marketing campaigns, slick and persuasive, promising it would bring security, eliminate poverty, and unite the world as one. What was really being offered? The world was desperate for peace and prosperity, and they were about to make a choice that would cost them eternity. Jesus whispered urgently, "Watch how it will be presented." I saw it all, the new digital currency system tied to the mark, promising to eliminate financial inequality and create a world of perfect convenience. It sounded too good to be true. Security, comfort, a sense of belonging. Who could resist? But deep in my soul, I felt the weight of Jesus' words. Many will not recognize it for what it is. They will see only the benefits: security, convenience, peace. What if they failed to see the cost? What if they were so blinded by their desire for peace that they chose the enemy's system, rejecting Christ in the process? Jesus' voice was filled with sorrow as he spoke. Accepting the mark will be a conscious decision to reject me. It will be a pledge of allegiance to the enemy's system. The truth of those words struck like a dagger in my heart. Would the world be so blinded? Would they choose temporary peace over eternal salvation? And what would we do when the time came to choose? The vision ended, but the weight of what I had seen remained with me. How could we, as believers, stand firm against such overwhelming deception? What would it take to recognize the truth when it was obscured by the lies of the world? I watched in horror as those who refused to take the mark faced increasingly dire consequences. Slowly, they were excluded from society. They couldn't buy food, access medical care, or participate in any form of commerce. Families were torn apart, homes lost, and lives shattered. It seemed impossible to survive without it. The darkness of the world system grew heavier by the minute, yet in the midst of it, something remarkable began to unfold. I saw believers, holding on to their faith, coming together like never before. They shared what little they had, their bond unbreakable. Jesus whispered gently, "My true church will shine brightest in this darkness. They will demonstrate my love and power in ways that will draw many to salvation, even in the face of great persecution." In that moment, I understood. The light of Christ would become more radiant than ever in times of trial. Would we too stand firm in the face of such opposition? The vision then shifted, showing me nature itself in turmoil. Earthquakes, tsunamis, and bizarre weather patterns ravaged the planet. These weren't random disasters. They were cosmic signs, the earth groaning with anticipation. Jesus spoke with urgency. These events will increase in frequency and intensity. They are birth pains signaling that the end is near. It was as though creation itself was crying out for redemption. How would we, as God's people, respond? Would we be ready when the time came to endure until the very end? Jesus then revealed a scene that was equally horrifying and revealing. Many, he said, would try to explain away these events, but his true followers would recognize them as the fulfillment of prophecy. The world, already in turmoil, would plunge further into chaos. Economic collapse, food shortages, and the rise of the Antichrist, who would seize the opportunity to tighten his grip on the world. And yet, amidst this darkness, God's faithful would experience a supernatural protection, a divine provision that defied logic. How could this be? How does God preserve his people when everything else seems to fall apart? But the most chilling part of the vision came next. Jesus showed me the final 3.5 years of tribulation. The Antichrist would break his peace treaty with Israel and set himself up in the temple, demanding to be worshipped as God. This would trigger the most intense persecution ever faced by the church. Jesus solemnly spoke, "This is the beginning of the greatest tribulation my people will ever endure." Yet, even in this deepest darkness, there would be an outpouring of his Spirit like never before. Could it be that the darkest days would also be the time of greatest revival? I saw martyrs, believers who were killed for their faith but died with such peace that their executioners, convicted by their faith, came to Christ. Underground churches grew rapidly and the gospel spread like wildfire, even as the world's systems sought to silence it. I couldn't help but wonder, what would the end look like? Could anyone fully grasp the glory of Christ's return? Then, Jesus gave me a glimpse of what would follow. His return in glory. The sky tore open, and there he was, no longer the humble carpenter of Nazareth, but the King of Kings, coming in power and great glory. The scene was beyond anything I could describe. As I watched, his words rang in my heart. No matter how dark it gets, my return is certain. Victory is assured. But even with the promise of victory, I saw that many were not ready. Their foundations had been built on the shifting sands of this world, rather than on the solid rock of his word. How could this be? How could they miss the warning signs? Through all of these visions, Jesus spoke clearly, urging his church to prepare. Are we truly ready? How many of us are deeply grounded in our relationship with him right now, before the trials come? I saw how many Christians, like the foolish virgins in Jesus' parable, had a form of religion but lacked the deep, personal relationship with him that would sustain them. How can we avoid such a fate? The urgency of his message could not be denied. He showed me the importance of knowing his word and hearing his voice. Those who were deceived were often those who didn't truly know him or his word. How well do we know him? How much of our lives are rooted in him and his truth? Jesus also revealed that the most prepared would be those who had learned to depend entirely on him, not on the comforts and systems of this world. Are we ready to let go of the things that give us comfort and trust him completely? As he showed me the power of community among believers, I was struck by how much we need each other. Those who tried to survive the tribulation alone struggled far more than those who were connected to other faithful believers. How important is our fellowship with one another, especially as we approach these challenging days? I saw the gospel spreading urgently, and many who had remained silent now regretted their inaction. Will we speak out when the time comes, or will we remain silent? As the vision began to fade, Jesus turned to me, his eyes full of love. Evelyn, you must share what you have seen. Many will dismiss it, but some will hear and prepare. His message was clear. Tell them that I am coming soon, but first these things must take place. Tell them to draw close to me now, while there is still time. As I slowly returned to my body, I felt the weight of his words, the calling to share his message. I learned later that I had been clinically dead for 13 minutes after the crash. The paramedics had declared me dead, yet my heart began to beat again. They called it a miracle, but they couldn't know the true miracle. It wasn't just the return of my physical body. It was the message I received during those moments, a message I am now called to share. In the months that followed, I prayed for God's guidance on when and how to share this experience. He made it clear. Now is the time. The events I witnessed are fast approaching, and God's people need to prepare spiritually. This is not a message of fear, but of hope and urgent preparation. Jesus is coming back, not for a church that is afraid, but for a bride who knows him intimately and stands firm in his truth. The time to prepare is now. It's not about hoarding supplies or building shelters. It's about building an unshakable relationship with Jesus Christ. If you're reading this, understand that this is not just another end times tale. This is a wake-up call from Jesus himself. Time is short. He's calling his people to return to their first love, to cast aside distractions, and to prepare their hearts for his return. The decision is in your hands. Will you respond to this call? Will you seek a deeper relationship with Jesus while there's still time? Are you willing to let him prepare your heart for what lies ahead? Remember, God doesn't show us these things to scare us, but to awaken and equip us. His perfect love casts out all fear. In him, we can face any challenge with peace, knowing that our future is secure. This testimony is shared with the hope that it will stir those who are spiritually asleep, ignite a fire in those already awake, and prepare the bride of Christ for the days of glory and trial that are drawing near. Take a moment to reflect. Will you be ready? Will you allow God to lead you, to strengthen you, and to help you stand firm in his truth? As you ponder these words, may the Holy Spirit guide you with wisdom and discernment, drawing you closer to Jesus as you prepare for his return. The time is now. What will you do with the opportunity you've been given? The answer could change everything. Thank you for your listening.